They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt. You have reached Venus Unplugged, your virtual heartbreak hotel. What Psyche says. I started a little early this morning because it is so hot in New York City that if I don't get everything done before noon, I am a wilted violet. I cannot function. And and here we are. Also, what I want to talk about today, what I want to explore, fairy tales can guide us into this information, but I want to talk about danger. One needs to become conscious when you're in danger, or your soul is in danger. And that's part of what, the Dark Sophia is about. She teaches us, when we want to stay innocent, which is really not such a good idea. We want to be the puer, which is the eternal boy, or the puello, which is the female counterpart. They really never quite want to grow up. So there can be a part of us that we just want to stay good. That's always dangerous. I just want to be good. Well, that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. So this long weekend, I went to Paradise. My friend moved upstate New York to a place called Paradise, and I went to stay there for a couple of days, and she had this book. And the name of the book is, let me remember it now, is The Sociopath Next Door. Started to read it, and I became so morbidly fascinated with it, I couldn't put it down. And actually, last night, twice, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I thought, no, should I really talk about this? No, maybe I should. It's absolutely, this needs to be spoken. The reality of the epidemic of sociopaths that we are having in our society. So the statistics now are 1 in every 25 people can be a sociopath. And so that makes in every 100 people there can be 4 sociopaths. So essentially, human race is on the upswing. Most people are conscientious. So that's good to know. We don't want to be terrified. But, just like in the fairy tales, when you come up against a force and you don't understand it, or it makes you feel crazy, or a number of things, okay, we need to know what we're looking at. And it needs to be named, not judged. So, we're not going to be playing, spot the sociopath, all right? All I want to do at this junction, okay, is help you comprehend the reality. And most people think sociopaths, and sociopaths and psychopaths are interchangeable. It's the same test they take, and there are tests that can be taken. And So we think they're serial killers. Everybody's like, oh, no, man, that's really scary. That's a very, very, very small percentage. Sociopaths can be highly intelligent, extremely charming, charismatic. They make incredible surgeons and politicians and FBI agents, and there tends to be more male sociopaths than females, although we're right, we're gaining on them. So this is a phenomenon, all right. And the part of the brain that registers emotions, that when you do a brain scan and ask questions, it doesn't register. So the danger, which is very real when you are around somebody like this, or influenced by somebody like this, or read about this, it's not just the dictators, all right? The sociopath cannot feel, does not feel, is incapable of feeling. There's nothing in the brain synapse that registers on a feeling level. Now that, to me, I mean, I've been in this world of consciousness, consciously for 30 some odd years, and I certainly have read about the different narcissisms, but this book just floored me, and it really, really is a necessary message, because we got to know what we're looking at. And I mean, I hear it day in and day out when I'm working with people. It's like, why do they do that? Or why? Because that's the way the person thinks. They will use a psychological jargon, to blame the childhood or whatever. They'll use anything. But it doesn't mean anything. It's not true. There's no feeling. No feeling. They can feign a feeling, they can talk about it, they can watch other people's response and then have a response to that, all right? But when you look at that fisheye, that dead look, if you're observing, but it's so, when you meet somebody, you get a little chill, like, I don't know what's the matter with that, but something's wrong there, And it's not like that chill of recognition, like, wow, I just have, had a piece of wisdom revealed. This is pretty amazing. It's really the other chill. Okay. $1 to donuts. That has crossed your path. So being able to just see, and the thing with sociopaths, what they can do is they're brilliant at turning, things around to their favor. I mean, they just know how to do that. Most people would be too staggered, right? So, to them, there's always a silver lining. There's no clouds, there's a silver lining. They turn things around. They can totally betray you on a dime and lie straight to your face. And you're so shocked because, a person, which is 96%, let's not forget that, really, really are healthy and have a sense of conscience. And she talks about it as like a seventh sense, so I kind of like that idea. Most people who are conscientious, okay, they never think that they're 100% right. A conscientious person is going to go, they're just good people, and they're almost never completely sure that they're right. They'll question themselves constantly. They'll reflect on the subject of their decisions and their actions. It was more of an exacting scrutiny. And, really they're watching their senses and also their sense of obligation. And it's rooted in their attachments to other people and humanity. And there's a natural self-questioning of consciousness. And it's seldom admits that they're absolutely certainty into their minds. Most people, there's a little bit reflection. I'm always fascinated with people. I'm 100% right. Or does it really matter? No, I'm right. I have it. And I just watch people go into this spin. It's like, wow, man, you're deeply fucking devoted to this thing, aren't you? And so I've always been like, well, what about the whole picture? What are we looking at? So, when it comes to people who don't have a conscience, that's really what it means. They do not feel. Incapable. Not going to happen. And not because they weren't loved as children or their father was an alcoholic or any of those things. They're just born that way. And I'm sure we could say, well, maybe they're UFOs, but no, they're here. They just do not have that human quality that has to do with consciousness. And we see these people, in history, Rasputin, Stalin. We can, and it's like, it's like those people. Okay, no. Here now in our society. So if you're with somebody and you walk away feeling a little crazy, one of the reasons is that communication, that humanness, that dynamic that happens between, they don't feel it. They don't have the value. So a conscientious person is going to go like, well, what just happened? Or they're really, and this I really want you to wake up to, and you know who you are, to this dangerous innocence. Because these people they're like vulnerability savants. They can sniff one's vulnerability. Where you just want to be good. Well, then you're a target. You don't have to be bad, but you need to know when you're in the presence of somebody who's not capable of feeling. So they don't worry. It's really interesting. Their anxiety and depression doesn't strike them. They don't really get angry. They're very cool-headed. So they're really great as military leaders. Okay, so, these traits can be used to enhance the society, but it's still someone who forget the moral ground. It's like kill anybody that gets in the way so we can, that's when it's an extreme, okay? So they can have this really amazing, I guess we could call it a gift, yeah? And what they're better at decoding vulnerability in other people. So they can pick it up and they will take advantage of it because it's a big game. They love the game of playing. So if you find yourself in a situation and you keep on asking yourself, why did he do that? Or, and very often that happens in abusive relationships. you can spend years and years and years trying to figure out why somebody did something. As a matter of fact, there's a book by the name of, which I also suggest for anybody who even suspects they're in an abusive relationship or doesn't know what it looks like. Okay, it's why does he do that? By Lundy, Lundy Brancroft. I think it's Brancroft. And what he states too is it's the way people think. Abusers think this way. They're not suffering. It's the way that the world is. And the same with our little sociopath next door, okay? So, being able to recognize, like for instance, if we want to have healthy, conscience, right? But we also need to be able to confront it. So let's say, for instance, if you teach your daughter explicitly or by passive rejection that she must ignore her outrage, that she must be kind and accepting to the point of not defending herself or other people, that she must not rock the boat for any reason, you are not strengthening her pro-social sense. You're damaging it. And the first person she will stop protecting is herself. Just be good. Be nice. Pretty is as pretty does. So she doesn't know that she has the right to say, knock it off. You're hurting me. Stop it. She'll find out ways, and all sorts of stuff will go on. Every child has the right to speak their outrage. I mean, eventually they have to, learn to not be acting it out, but they know it is an outrage. And we've got to give them the tools to speak that outrage and listen to and respect. Otherwise, we're leaving them vulnerable to this epidemic of sociopaths. That's not cool. All right? This is what these, when Einstein said that the world is a dangerous place to live in, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. So this is an attempt to bring this to be explored, and I know it's trippy and it's terrifying, but it's also true on this earth. That we need to understand how these people operate. And what's interesting is very often there are some sociopaths that rather than having admiration or even more than fear, they want pity from good people, because that creates carte blanche. Now, I've never been in fear. Pity and sentimentality are two things that you just got to take off the table, because they're half emotions. In this situation, people who are predators like this look for somebody who's like, it's going through a bad patch, or nobody understood, or and you're going to be the one to turn that around? No, you won't. No, you won't. You need to be able to look at it and go like, whoa, this person is not feeling. Ever. Cannot. And I guarantee you it does not bother them. So even if you use the old trick pony of, oh, well, what comes around goes around, guess what? No, it won't. I mean, in some other incarnation, perhaps. They can take advantage of any situation. And usually, they can be, there's a high percentage that are extremely successful and powerful in the world because they know how to take advantage of all this stuff that you wouldn't even think about. So what she talks about in there's this test, the theoretical test on the psychopaths, like deviant patterns. So this is what she says here, that they fail to conform to social norms, aggressive, reckless, impulsive, fail to honor financial obligations, inconsistent work, never are faithful. There's always kind of, it's like James Bond, new dangerous task, new babe, okay? And they lack remorse. So you need to be able to look and see the deceitfulness, the recklessness, the faithless, and the remorseless. And so their psyche is based in lovelessness. To a sociopath, you do not matter. To a sociopath, you do not matter, which is enough to drive any one of us out of our minds. We can come away from an encounter with a person who just doesn't feel and nothing matters, and a conscientious person is going to go like, gee, I wonder what I did wrong, or it's an impossible thought. But it is a necessary thought, because if we don't start being able to become aware of this, now, you got to be careful here, because judging and labeling, that's not what this is about. This is just, it's a book. It's the Psychopath Next Door by Martha Stout, Stout, Ph.D. It's not, I didn't, and I read really difficult things. I did not find this easy, but I was compelled because it just, like, so many things came into focus. It was like, oh, whoa, that's it. So let's say, one of your parents was sociopath. I mean, they just didn't feel anything. So people will blame themselves and label themselves and never, because it's incomprehensible. You'd rather be crazy or codependent or whatever, rather than comprehend that you were exposed to this unfeeling, incapable, doesn't know the first thing about feeling person. That's what begins to happen. So when we begin to look, and usually people can recognize narcissism, okay? Narcissism is they feel, okay? It's a failure of, narcissism is not a failure of not having conscience, but of empathy. See, a narcissist can have empathy for themselves. They can't have empathy for the other person. They can't walk in other people's shoes. And believe me, that is one lonely disease to have. Okay? And it's like with sociopaths, okay? It's like they know the words, but not the music. And what sociopaths envy and may seek to destroy as part of their game is usually something or someone who has character structure, has the character structure of a person with conscious and strong characteristics, and often especially targeted by sociopaths. So they'll go up for the noble soul. Beauty and ugliness, except in a very superficial sense. Goodness, evil, love, horror, and even humor have no actual meaning, no power to move them. So, like, you can't win. And it is the one disease that stands alone. It causes no disease from the person who has it, no subjective discomfort, which is pretty amazing. Usually we have some kind of boo-boo, or behavior, So I guess sociopaths don't get ulcers. Now, there's different ranges in all of this. So I'm just opening up this consciousness of danger. You should need to be aware when you're in the presence of danger, because they're social snipers. And what they can do is they can cause you to lose faith in your own perception. I've seen it again and again and again. A person is destroyed. And part of my soul work is to reconstruct that so they can really see what took place. So it's just the nature. Now they can act as if they have feelings. They're shrewd observers of humanity, right? And so they'll talk about emotion, but it's hollow. It's transient, and they'll feign affectionate feelings, but they have a breathtaking callousness. They have no trace of empathy and no genuine interest in bonding emotionally with a mate. No, that's not everybody's ex. That's what I'm saying. It's 4 out of every 100, which is still way too much. And that's part of what we're looking at, and so it's about starting to recognize. Wait a second, before you're conscientious, and that's good, and that's what makes you loving and human and kind, and get angry and respond and have a hissy fit. All those things. The sociopath doesn't do that. They're cool-headed. They can torture without feeling anything. So I'm sure everyone has been exposed, at least in some way, to this kind of behavior. And I think it's important that we begin to recognize, without going out on a craze, we're not going for the witch hunt. We're not going for the, spot the sociopath. What we're going for is, whoa, wait a second. And those people are not far away. They're not in some other evil enemy camp or country or sect or religion. It's in every single thing. And highly functional people. So I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about this next week, because there's also another amazing book. This one's a little more complicated, but it's interesting. It's called The Wisdom of Psychopaths. What Saints, Spies, Serial Killers Can Teach Us About Success by Kevin Dunton. So start just looking at this, not blaming, just looking, at least considering that this has crossed your path at least once, if you haven't dated it several times. You know, I wonder if this is on OkCupid or whatever. They have this test. So I know it's scary, but wisdom is a bitch, and we've got to become conscious. And we you know, it's dangerous to just have this only wanting the good, because then you're opened. We need to be sane, and we need to be able to look at, and we be able to name and look at what we're seeing, and then run. Because the only answer to is get away from these people as fast as you can. Do not engage. So, my darlings, now that I've terrified you for the day, you know, but it's better to know than not know, because the ignorance is dangerous. And I want you all protected on all levels. Heaven, earth, and hell. It all has its purpose. So, my beloveds, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.